Hi, it's Maria Hilliard from Women into Wellness. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about some of the causes of diastasis recti and mummy tummy. So stay tuned with me to hear all about that. Now, welcome to my channel, Women into Wellness. This is where I provide you with tools, tips and strategies pertaining to movement, nutrition, mindfulness and lifestyle to help you generally feel fantastic and maximize your potential for wellness and well-being. So thanks for joining me today. If you haven't already subscribed, then go ahead and do that and click the bell for notifications when I drop a new video. And most importantly, if you enjoy the content here, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and not only like it, but share the video, most importantly, so that other women like you can benefit from the content I've shared here. So let's get straight into it. We're going to be talking about the causes of diastasis recti. So the first reason, and perhaps the one that is most known, is going to be that you have had a pregnancy. Now, pregnancy as a natural occurrence is going to cause the wall of the abdominal muscles and the connective tissue there to start to distend and to stretch because it's making way for the growing uterus, the amniotic fluid, and your growing fetus, then baby. So it's very natural, and it is always going to happen during a pregnancy, especially a pregnancy that goes full term. That gradually throughout that time and that growth, that a diastasis recti occurs. And this is just a natural part of the anatomy of pregnancy. Now, if you have had multiple births, then of course it may be that most likely that your abdomen was bigger than the average pregnancy, and therefore the diastasis recti has the tendency to be larger. The gap will be wider. It may also be larger if you had a larger baby or you had a large amount of amniotic fluid and had a large belly bump still with a single baby pregnancy. So any of these reasons are going to cause you to have a diastasis recti. Another reason is if you had a weak core prior to pregnancy. So if you led a sedentary lifestyle where you didn't really have much activity, whether it was throughout your activities of daily living, so just your normal lifestyle activities, or through an exercise or recreational program that gave you a tight and stronger core, then it just meant that your muscles were already fairly lax, fairly weakened, so that when the stretching happened throughout the pregnancy, they weren't really able to sort of push back, pull back, keep everything tight, and they were having more of a tendency to just become relaxed at a quicker rate, and therefore could exacerbate the likelihood of you developing the diastasis recti beyond those parameters of normal pregnancy, and also make it harder for you to heal it afterwards. Now, also playing into this is whether you had any damage to your core. So that might have been damage that occurred through previous injury, through surgery. So if you had something like a C-section or an abdominal surgery for things like an abdominal hernia, then this as well could have compromised the integrity, the strength and the structural integrity of your core, meaning that it had more of a propensity to develop diastasis recti that was more prolonged in the healing process. Obesity is also a huge contributor towards developing diastasis recti. Now, this is because you have a lot of excess, usually around the midline excess fat, that is putting pressure on that abdominal wall. Now, it's not only putting pressure because it will be lying, for example, you do have layers of fat that may be lying underneath the muscle. A lot of the adipose fat will lay on top of the muscle on the outside, but it's also with obesity just going to be causing a lot more pressure in the abdomen that is going to be pushing out in those areas that you really want, that are going to be, should be holding you in nice and tight. So it's important to try to manage the weight, get the weight down. Added to that, especially when you think of it in terms of mummy tummy, is that if you have all these lax muscles underneath and then you have a lot of excess fat, the adipose fat on top, on the outside of the muscles, it's going to make a diastasis recti look visibly worse because not only are things hanging loose out there because the muscles and connective tissue are not doing their job, but you also have this huge layer of fat on top of it, and then you also have the loose and stretchy skin as well that comes often post things like pregnancy, but certainly often with having excess body fat, because your skin and all of those tissues surrounding that fat are having to stretch so that they can allow room and space for that body fat to be there. Birth defect can be another reason, because you can actually be born with a diastasis recti. Now, if you've had your healthy pregnancy and hopefully you've got a lovely baby or you've got older kids, you may have noticed this, or you may be able to check now if your kid's still small enough. If they are laid down on their back and they just generally try and sit up, sometimes you can see there's quite a big distension in the linea alba. This gap is there. Now, it's not often a problem, although it will be diagnosed as a minor birth defect. It's not really a problem if there is tensile strength through that midline, and over time, usually it will knit together closer quite naturally. But it's just important to know it could have been something you were born with. So you may not have had a pregnancy, you may not be obese, you may not have experienced any or sustained any damage to your core through surgery or injury. It may be that you were born with a diastasis recti already there. Another cause of diastasis recti is that you have been doing exercise that puts extensive pressure on that abdominal wall, either in the first trimester of pregnancy or in the stages in the late trimester of pregnancy or in the early postnatal recovery phase. So, what kind of exercise might we be talking about? Well, if you're doing things like excessive crunches, or you're doing that prone plank, so this is the typical plank where you're either on your hands or you're on your elbows, there's a lot of pressure going out through the front line of the body, or you're just doing a lot of twisting movements in your postnatal recovery phase that start to strengthen the obliques, which strengthening the abdominal muscles is good, but the obliques are the ones that help to pull those muscles, the six-pack muscles, apart. So it's doing the sort of exercise that is not supportive throughout pregnancy, but most importantly through postnatal recovery, that can actually not only cause the diastasis recti throughout the pregnancy, but it can also make it worse, because like I said, everyone, if you've had a full-term birth, is going to have a diastasis recti to a certain degree, but it's going to make it worse or slow down your recovery. So really important there to make sure you're doing the right type of exercise. Now, if you are aged over 35, it can increase your risk of developing a diastasis recti. Now, this is because generally, once you reach a certain age, the connective tissues and all of the substances that make those strong and healthy are not quite maximizing the way that they work anymore. You're not having the strongest connective tissue anymore. You don't have as much collagen naturally being produced in the skin and elastin within all of those muscles, within the soft tissues. And this is basically just a natural part of the aging process. Now, you can offset this with nutrition. I've got a whole nother video that's going to talk to you about how you can heal diastasis recti. So have a look and stay at the end till that. I'll pop it in the links below. Another factor that can be contributing towards developing a diastasis recti is your posture. So if your posture is not on point, if you have what is called a sway back, where you have an anterior pelvic tilt, so your pelvis is tilting forwards, so it looks like where you have that real curve in the lower back, and this is also known as lower cross syndrome, then what can happen is that you're putting more pressure through that abdominal wall because you're not in optimal alignment. You're stretching out the muscles of the front wall rather than strengthening them, and there's a lot more involved to it, but that's probably the quickest way to explain it for you, is that you're just allowing everything to tip forward into that belly, which is the place you don't want the pressure moving into because you've already got an issue there, right? And also you are not allowing your body to operate fully in the way that it should do, to have core strength and integrity, to manage any extra pressures or load, and your breathing to make sure it is sorted out. Now that moves us on to the next one, which is breathing. If you're not breathing correctly, you do a lot of belly breathing, or you're not breathing using your rib cage fully and breathing into your back, this can really cause problems with diastasis recti. It's not necessarily going to give you a diastasis recti if you have none of these other factors, but if you already have one, then this can be a really large part of why your diastasis recti is not healing. You could have a genetic tendency to develop diastasis recti, and there's not really much you can do about this, right? So it might be that it exists within your lineage, your family line, within the genes of the family, in which case it's just something naturally that you may have more of a tendency to develop, but can be managed to a degree by taking on board the right lifestyle changes that can help you to heal your diastasis recti. So like I said, I'll talk about that a bit more at the end of the video. Now, one that is often overlooked but needs to be addressed is not only the way you move. So we've talked a little bit about doing the right type of exercise, and that also plays into having your posture correct and your breathing. So like with everything I do, the holistic approach ties it all together, and that's how you get the best results, because everything affects everything else. But is also thinking about how you move in terms of your transitions between postures and how you move in terms of how you walk. So talking about your gait is what we call it. So the way that you walk can affect it, but most importantly, what you wear on your feet when you are walking or standing still is so important. So the type of footwear that you wear can be a huge contributing factor towards you developing a worse diastasis recti than you may have had during, for example, pregnancy. But then also, once you do have that diastasis recti, whether that's due to pregnancy or because you were born with it or for other reasons, if you're wearing the wrong type of footwear, it's going to make it much harder for you to heal it. Not only that, it can make your diastasis recti get worse. So you need to be addressing the type of footwear that you are wearing. Now, if you want to know exactly the steps that you need to be taking to heal your diastasis recti, then I have a solution for you. It is my Diastasis Recti course. I'm going to put a link down below for you. This goes through the 7 essential steps that you need to take in order to heal your diastasis recti. And as with everything, this is the holistic approach. So you attack it from all angles, and that is what is going to maximize results and get you progressing forwards, so that you're not taking 1 step forward and 2 steps back by just picking out things here and there or watching random videos or reading random blogs. It gives you the full care package as to how you can manage diastasis recti in bite-sizable, manageable, embeddable lifestyle changes. I teach you exactly what you need to know, why you're doing it, and how to do it to get you the results so that you can transform this, finally heal your diastasis recti, be rid of the mummy tummy. So check it out. I will pop a link down below. Now, I hope you found a wealth of information in this video for you, just to ascertain what are some of the causes or contributing factors towards the diastasis recti, and have a little inkling as to how you can change your diastasis recti and start to improve your wellness. Thank you for watching the video. If you did like it, please go ahead and share it, because there's a lot of women like you out there who really need to know this information. The likes are great, but I'm more interested in other people being able to receive the help as much as possible. And don't forget to subscribe, because I drop videos weekly and there's going to be some content that could really help you out. So I hope to see you on my next video, and until then, I wish you well.